Welcome back to Future State, where today we'll be discovering what's going on with Bruce Wayne. Why does everyone think that he's dead? Why isn't the Red Hood involved in everything that's happening with Future State Red Hood? We'll be exploring Andy's origins and where Jackson Hyde is in Aquaman #1. And we'll be talking about the beginning of everything in Batman and Superman #1. This is Future State, you're on the Comicstorian channel, and this is where we take your favorite trade paperbacks and single issues and we break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Future State is a 2-month event over at DC Comics. They're telling what if storylines in the future, and as of March, everything will go back to normal. Today's books involve the Gotham timeline, and they involve a separate timeline with Aquaman, and some stuff involving the Suicide Squad, and some stuff involving the Justice Squad. I'll explain where, theoretically, all of these fit in the timeline, but let's go ahead and pick up where we left off with Bruce Wayne, who is presumed dead in the Gotham storylines. Here we go. Future State, Dark Detective #2. The young punks sneak into the warehouse intending to steal the barrels within to sell. What they don't see is the Dark Knight watching them from the shadows above. Suddenly a siren whoops in the darkness and one of the cybers comes exploding through the wall. "You are in violation of private property restrictions." The cyber shouts as it reaches for one of the kids, but Batman leaps from the shadows standing on the robot's back. He knocks it to the ground, reaching for the wires on it. But an arm comes out of the smoke, grabbing him by his arm. "Damaging magistrate property is a city offense," the second cyber shouts. Images begin to flash through Bruce's mind. Of crawling down an alleyway after being shot. Of Peacekeeper 01 reaching for him. He whirled, firing the grappling gun into the enemy, knocking him away, buying Bruce enough time to struggle to his feet and run. Why would the leader of the magistrate ambush Bruce Wayne in an alleyway? He didn't have an answer then. He dashes for the dock, gunfire erupting from behind him. A bullet slashing through his thigh, so he throws a batarang which lands into the wood of the dock and did nothing. He leaped through the air, hitting the water, diving deep as the bullet splashed all around him. He began to sink, his lungs burning, but that's when he saw death staring back at him. The John Doe looked remarkably like a dead Bruce Wayne. He pushed the body up, allowing it to buy him a few seconds as Peacekeeper 01 emptied his weapon into the corpse. But Bruce had a stroke of luck. It turned out that his last electric grenade wasn't a dud, and the batarang exploded, throwing Peacekeeper 01 away, buying Bruce more time. He swam as hard as he could, finally pulling himself onto a beach in the distance. And for a while, Bruce merely sat there, feeling the life drain out of his body, until finally, a look of determination was on his face, and he pulled himself up. Now, Batman stands, the second cyber having fallen to a sharp object in the eye. He drags the robot away, ripping off the arm, storing it in his backpack, and quickly, he changes to his tactical gear, making his way through the city. Since his death, Bruce has had to relocate, something significantly cheaper than Wayne Manor. He steps into the small house and hears the cocking of a gun from the next room. He calls out to his roommate, Noah. "It's Jeff, remember, your roommate?" Bruce calls, and Noah steps into the room holding an old rifle. "You got a cell phone?" "No cell phones," Noah orders him, and Noah puts the rifle away, telling Bruce that they don't drink the tap water anymore. The aliens are putting mind control chemicals in it. The door opens and Noah's daughter walks in with several bottles of water. Bruce greets her before heading down into the bunker, which has been converted into a room for him. He pulls out the cyber arm, going through it, looking at his theory board. The equipment of the magistrate seems to come from 3 companies. Bruce pulls on his tactical gear. He knows what's next. He has to follow the money. Bruce rolls through the city, heading into the Plexi Tech Corporation. It's one of the 3 companies that provides goods to the magistrate, all of which didn't exist before the Joker War. He slips over the wall of the factory, moving through the shadows until suddenly he stops. Something is moving. Something small is buzzing around, and it seems to be scanning. Batman reaches for his hand, grabbing a small robot just as the alarms begin to blare. He starts to run as the magistrate drones begin to close in on him, and he revs the motorcycle's engines, racing through the city streets when suddenly the drones finally catch up to him. They find that the bike has been abandoned, and back in the bunker, Bruce studies the small robot. It seems to be some sort of micro-surveillance drone. Its cloaking tech has failed, which was the only reason Bruce was able to find it. But that's when Bruce realizes that they knew where to find him. They knew that killing Bruce would mean killing Batman, because they had been watching. The magistrate had eyes all over the city, observing everyone without their knowledge. Suddenly he hears a smash upstairs, and Noah is shouting about how they're always watching. He pokes his head out the door to see Noah going at the TV with a baseball bat. "Hey Jeff, you got TV down there? You gotta get rid of it. They're everywhere," he shouts. And Bruce looks at the crazy man. Yes, they are, he thinks to himself. Now future state, Red Hood. Jason's phone buzzes with a mask alert as he sits up in bed, ignoring the woman laying next to him. He pulls on the Red Hood uniform and heads outside. The bike roars down the street, weaving in and out of traffic on the highway. Vigilante turns, aiming his gun, opening fire at Red Hood. But Jason avoids it. He brakes, pulling out his hook and chain, tossing it at Vigilante. The hook snags on the tire, bringing the bike to a sharp stop, throwing the mask to the ground. And later, Jason throws Vigilante hard onto the magistrate official's desk. "Not bad, Hood," the officer says with a smile as he removes the Vigilante's mask. He orders the soldiers to remove the prisoner, and Jason watches as a body bag is wheeled through the room and the officer smiles. "Your partner did it again. This would be much easier if these dummies would stop wearing masks," he notes. And another mask alert sounds, and Jason turns to see a screen that shows another Red Hood stealing from a food truck. "Wow, would you look at that? Aren't you a little mad these guys are stealing the look that you stole?" Red Hood roars through the city on his bike, dismounting at the food truck, ignoring the cops and the civilians as he looks around the scene. A short time later, Hood parks outside of a food bank, the line twisting around the block, but he ignores it and heads into the bar across the street. Inside, he ignores the patron's comments and he sits at the bar. Removing his mask, he orders a double, but the thugs aren't leaving. They come up behind Jason, ordering him to put back on his mask and leave. "We don't serve heroes in the Narrows," one of them hisses as his buddy pulls out a knife. They move to attack him, but a bar stool sails through the air, knocking the one with the knife out, and the two other are taken out in a blur of motion. "You didn't wake me when you left this morning, not even a kiss goodbye. You just wanted a head start," Ravager says with a smile, pulling off the mask, revealing her face. "You see, I used the bar stool instead of my swords," she says with a smile as she sits down with Red Hood, and she orders herself a beer. As she drinks, she wonders why he stayed in Gotham after Batman died. Why does he do what he does? And Jason finally stands up. "You see that line for the soup kitchen? It's long, too long. The people in the neighborhood know a shipment of food is coming," he tells her as he reaches for one of the thugs' phones. He explains that the soup kitchen and the bar were the only places that weren't vandalized. He knows the thugs work for the Red Hood that stole the food. Ravager smiles as she stands up. "Then let's play," she says, and Jason shakes his head. "I work alone," he says as he pulls back on his mask. He crosses the street, stepping into the soup kitchen. Everything looks normal inside, so he looks around as he pulls out the phone, hitting the last number called. He can hear the buzzing coming from the back room and he kicks open the door. The fake Red Hood curses as he drops the boxes that he was carrying, turning and running for the door. "They told me I'd be safe!" he shouts, and Jason chases him out into the alleyway. But as the fake Red Hood rounds a corner, he meets Ravager's sword. "Looks like dinner's on me tonight. Sushi?" she asks with a smile as she cleans off her blade. Jason leans down, removing the fake's helmet. The kid was a no one, just someone who was trying to help people, but looking inside, he finds that the helmet was lined with Mad Hatter tech. "This has been updated. It's new," he tells her, and he turns away, congratulating her on a good job as he heads back for his bike. "Where are you going?" she asks him. "To find the Mad Hatter and get some answers," Jason tells her, and she straddles the bike. "I know where the Mad Hatter's last hideout was." "Giddy up," she tells him. So a short time later, the pair are moving through the Wonderland Putt-Putt building, and they round the corner to discover the body of Mad Hatter, long dead. Now, who has their hands on the Hatter tech, Rose wonders, when suddenly Jason's phone begins to beep with another mask alert. He glances at it to see that he is the new alert. "Crap!" Jason curses. Future State, Batman and Superman, #1. Gotham City, the beginning of the occupation. Batman steps through the room, rats shift and squeak on the floor. Eyes open over their bodies and shoot heat vision at him, so he dodges, moving for the door. He grunts as he opens it to reveal the greenish light of kryptonite, which causes the rats to flee. "Oh hell," Batman whispers as he steps into the room. You see, yesterday, in Metropolis, the young boy was hanging over the railing, aiming down at the oncoming train. "Be brave, Xander. You could do this," the boy whispers to himself. "It's the only way out," he shouts as he jumps down to face the oncoming train. But Superman is there, stopping the train before it can hit him. "It's never the only way out, Xander," Superman says, putting a hand on the boy's shoulder. He flies the boy away, and in a short time, Xander is explaining the problem to Superman. He tells him that he wanted to pull off an epic prank at school, so he discovered the false face serum. He shows Superman by putting the device against his own neck and changing his face. Xander's face then alters to that of a giant ram. Our mascot's the ram, so you know, he says, but he explains that the serum has had some side effects. Even when it's off, I get nervous, he explains, pointing to the ram's horns that grow out of his forehead. I can't control it. Who's gonna date a guy with horns on his head? Xander asks. Superman leaves Xander with Dr. Veritas, and after doing a little research, she discovers that the false face serum originates in Gotham. So a short time later, Superman is flying next to the Batwing. It's been a while, he shouts to his friend. What are you doing? Get inside the Batwing now! Batman shouts as Superman gets on board. It's nice to see you, Bruce, he tells him. But Batman explains that the Batwing is cloaked against their surveillance drones. Unlike your bright red cape, he growls. Superman looks at his friend asking who they are, and Batman glances at his friend. You're a reporter, Clark. How have you not heard about this? He questions. But Superman waves it off, explaining that Metropolis has its own issues, and he asks Batman about the false face serum. I hadn't realized the serum made it over to Metropolis, but I've been tracking it here. It's growing in popularity, Batman explains. And in the dark alleyway, 3 teenagers with animal heads throw a Molotov cocktail at one of the magistrate drones. The drone hits the ground and the teens start to stomp on it. Stop all movement. Prepare for punishment determination, one of the cybers says as it comes down to the alleyway, leveling its arm guns at the teens. It opens fire, but the round bounces off the chest of Superman. Not today, he says with a smile, and he scans the robot, realizing that there is nothing human inside, and he takes it down with one punch. Elsewhere in Gotham, the Peacekeepers watch the fight through the cyber's camera, and inform the professor that his wish just came true. One of the Peacekeepers nod. In the alleyway, Batman throws a bolo at the fleeing teens, asking if Superman heard anything he told him back at the Batwing about the magistrate surveillance drones. People's lives were in danger, Clark argues, and as the teens struggle to their feet, they ask Batman not to hurt them. He's not going to hurt you. Depends on whether or not I get answers, Batman tells them with a growl, demanding to know where they got the drug. The teens quickly begin to spill their guts, and one of the girls explained that her father has gone missing and the authorities insisted that he left on his own. He tells Superman that the magistrate treats them like vermin. We're showing them that vermin can fight back. We're gonna bring down as many of their goons and drones as we can, until they release the people that they've kidnapped or kill us, she explains. You still haven't answered my question. Where'd you get it? Batman demands. The bird-headed teen tells him that they got the drug from a dealer that they met in a creep hospital. When suddenly the one with the bug head yells and tries to hit Superman with a bat. The teen yells, running off into the night. Some people do need masks. You're right, Batman. Superman nods as he watches the teens run away. I know, Batman nods. But a dangerous street drug isn't the solution. I want it out of my city, he tells him. So they head back into Old Gotham, beneath the modern streets of the city, and they pass through the droves of homeless that call this dark place home, eventually arriving at the old hospital. Follow my lead. We're going in as discreetly as we can, Batman tells his friend. Got it. Discreet. Superman nods, and inside they find the high-tech interior of the building doesn't seem to match the outside of it. Impossible. All of this is funded by selling street drugs at $20 a pop. Let's see what we can find out, Batman whispers. He finds a computer and begins to look through the files when suddenly there's a snort from the shadows and 2 genetically altered human-animal hybrids rush them. I need more time, Batman says as he glances over his shoulder. I've got you covered, Superman tells him, and he hits the first hybrid, knocking him through one of the walls, but the other one clocks him in the jaw, showing that their strength is augmented as well. He hits the second one, quickly moving to take the serum injector from the thug's neck, and as he looks up, he sees a frogman standing before him. Hello, Superman, the frog says simply. My name is Mr. Toad, and I am the leader of the False Face Society, Mr. Toad explains. Elsewhere, Batman smiles as he finds out who is funding the false face serum. He downloads the data before turning and realizing that the building has gone silent. He feels it in his bones. Clark is in trouble. Future State, Aquaman #1. Neptune. Jackson Hyde surges forward in the water, the strange-like creatures right behind him. He's almost at the surface when the shark grabs him by the foot. There's no escape, Earth spy! The guard shouts in the shark's back, but Jackson whirls around, punching the shark mount in the face. He keeps going. He keeps pushing. He keeps seeing the light of the surface just ahead, when suddenly he stops, a look of shock on his face. Impossible, he whispers, and he begins to laugh as the guards grab him and drag him back into the blackness of the deep. Later, he's held in chains before the head of the prison. The alien creatures regard him with dark eyes. 300 failed attempts, and yet something is funny, prisoner 31814. Jackson looks at him darkly. Jackson, my name is Jackson Hyde. I'm the Aquaman, he tells the warden. The alien is taken aback. In all of his time there, Jackson has never given his name or his rank. Everything's changed, Jackson explains, telling the warden that he wants them to know before it happens. Because she's out there. She's coming. It was 6 years ago that Jackson was floating in the water. The destroyed ship floated nearby, smoke trailing in the sky. He awoke sharply and moved to find Andy. As they floated together, Jackson reminds her that he ordered her to stay back while he dealt with Black Manta. Yeah, because you fighting your psycho dad has always been so great for us, Andy snaps. Jackson gets angry, pointing out that Andy never follows his orders, never takes his training seriously. Maybe it's you, Jackson! Maybe you're not Aquaman and you never will be, she shouts. She gets angry, her eyes begin to glow. The sharks begin to circle around them and Jackson is shocked. Andy suddenly stops though, becoming ashamed of herself and swimming away. Jackson chases after her, asking why she didn't tell him that she could talk to fish like her father. But Andy looks at him, explaining that she can't talk to sea life. She controls them. There's a big difference, and I hate it when it happens because it's wrong, she says. Jackson stops her, telling her that he isn't judging her, but he's trying to keep her safe. When suddenly their conversation is interrupted as they realize that the water is changing around them. Now they're floating in a sea of green. They swim to the surface, shocked to see that the sky is pink above them. What is happening? She asks, fear creeping in her voice. Go back under. Look for something you recognize. Jackson orders her, and as they swim beneath the surface, they realize that none of the sea life looks normal. I don't think we're on Earth anymore. At least not our Earth, Jackson tells her. Jackson continues his story, but the warden interrupts him. Remarkable, you and your apprentice discovered the confluence, the one great ocean that connects all time and space. I do wish you talked more candidly from the very start. Could have greatly improved your time here. Time passed and Jackson and Andy found themselves on a beach. They had passed through 7 worlds so far. Getting caught between dimensions of whatever, it's pretty common for people like us. If you haven't been through this at least once, they don't even let you in the Justice League, Jackson tells her as they watch the sunset. Liar, Andy says with a snort of laughter. That's what I heard. Andy and Jackson travel from world to world. They helped people wherever they could, but they had no way of knowing that the great oceans were protected by the same beast. They swam faster, but it didn't matter. The great monster lunged out of the water, tentacles swirling around them, grabbing both of our heroes. They both became tired, and Andy yelled for Jackson. Paralytic! Something in the tentacles! He gasped, and he hit the beast with an electrical shock, forcing it to let him go. He began to fall, but he managed to grab a hold of Andy's leg. He sent another shock through her and the monster, causing Andy to scream in pain. But the massive tentacle refused to let go this time. Let her go! Let her go! He screamed out in rage, tears filling her eyes as she tells Jackson that she's not going to make it. Water foaming from her hand, creating a powerful knife. No, don't you dare! Jackson yelled at her, but she slashed it downward, cutting off her own leg, sending Jackson plummeting to the waters below. As Jackson finished his story, the warden looked at him, and he explained that they're an advanced society, and that if Jackson had been more forthcoming with his story from the beginning, they could have helped him forget this trauma that has plagued him for years. Nothing is going to happen here. Our security is absolute. Our controls are unmatched. They've always have been. Let us help you, the warden tells him. Jackson nods, admitting that he finally figured it out. And he makes a fist, flexing his muscles, pulling at the chains that hold him. He's been in shock this whole time, deep trauma affecting him mentally, physically, and he thought that he had failed Arthur and Mara, that they had lost their daughter, that they had let Andy die. Your control, these restraints, they're designed for how strong you think I am, how strong I showed you I was for a long time. If she survived, then I kept my promise to her parents. I gave her everything that I had, everything that she needed to survive, and now she's giving it right back. He snarls at the warden, ripping against his restraints, pulling them from the ground as his tattoos begin to glow. He whips the chains around, knocking the guards easily, and he leaps forward, smashing his fist against the warden's throne. Wait, is she here? The warden demands, frightened, and the image of almost reaching the surface fills Jackson's mind. Aquawoman lives, the words spelled out. And as the guards fill the room, Jackson takes the coral that he had ripped from the warden's throne. Magic swells, creating watery blades out of it. She is. Come on now. Not polite to keep her waiting, he tells the warden as he begins to stride towards the guards that have floated into the room. Future State, Suicide Squad. Earth 3, Mongol, Brainiac, and Sinestro move across the rooftops when finally a voice calls out to them. The three villains look up to discover the Justice League above them, but it's not really the League. Batman is really the Talon. Wonder Woman is really the hypnotic woman in disguise. Aquaman is really someone called Fisherman. And the Flash is really a woman named Bolt, who used to run with the Teen Titans. Oh, and Martian Manhunter is actually Clayface 8. Stop! You can't run from the Justice Squad! Superman tells him with a smile. You wanted to fight, Mongol? Sinestro snarls as his ring begins to glow and Mongol launches herself at the Justice Squad as Brainiac begins to replicate himself. The Brainiacs begin to attack Wonder Woman and Superman while Mongol punches Aquaman hard in the face. She whirls, knocking the Martian Manhunter away, but he transforms into a massive monster. Clayface against the woman, pouring mud into her eyes and her mouth. Superman pulls himself free of the horde of Brainiacs as his comm chimes in. Connor, the real Brainiac is getting away, Amanda Waller tells him. As Sinestro begins to escape, he turns his ring on the pursuing Batman, but in a blur of motion, his hand is cut off his body by a super fast Flash kick. He begins to fall, but Batman shoots a spike into him, pinning him to the wall. Meanwhile, Superman and Wonder Woman continue to fight against the horde of Brainiacs. Connor gets on the radio, ordering the Flash to stop the real Brainiac. Yeah, Soups, I think Bats is really cracked. He's as mad as a cut snake, Flash tells the team leader. Batman smiles, pulling out a knife, beginning to cut into Sinestro. No more aliens! That's what she promised, and that's what I signed up for! Leave now, Amanda Waller tells Flash over the radio. Flash shakes her head, refusing to leave Batman. What makes you think I was asking? Waller says, as Batman's head explodes. You want to keep your head and your powers, then get on your feet, Flash, and stop Brainiac, Waller orders. And in a blur of motion, the Flash moves through the fight, catching the real Brainiac. Connor nods as he picks up the fleeing villain's bag. Wasn't pretty, but the mission was accomplished. Package acquired. Superman tells the group, and he hands the bag off to the Flash, telling her that he'll deal with Brainiac. He turns off his radio as he lifts the android's head. It looks at him, explaining that it has fought many Supermen across many multiverses and timelines. None are like you, a clone of the world's greatest hero and the world's most terrifying villain. I hope, before your master finishes his grand plan, you remember who you are. You are not Luthor, you're a Kent. And Brainiac shuts down. As Superman flies away, he doesn't see the group watching him from the shadows. They're not the mission. They're gonna lead us to the target, the leader says simply. And when the others want to blindly rush the heroes, Black Manta begins to cough, telling the others that something doesn't feel right. If we're lucky, we might just survive. Let's go, clock's ticking. Peacemaker orders them. Meanwhile, over at the Pentagon, Flash isn't happy, telling the group that she didn't sign up for murder. The group begins to fight, arguing amongst themselves until Connor calls for them all to stop. In his comms, Waller reminds Connor that his group doesn't respond to words. If you don't stop them, I will, Waller states as the group is suddenly hit with an electrical charge. They all fall to the ground stunned, and with that, Waller appears before them. Flash rushes to her, but Waller hits another button and the speedster falls, and another shock hits her, and she stumbles and falls. Anyone else have anything else to say? Waller says, looking in the bag, happy with what she sees, and she reminds the group that they need to follow orders and they can finally finish the mission. Everything that I've been working for, all of it has led to this, she whispers as she turns, looking at the hologram that appears on the team's table. Now that you've secured the last remaining piece of tech from Brainiac, Project Home Base can be brought online. Once it's activated, my mission will be complete, she tells them. She looks at the group, reminding them that she needs them to keep it together a little longer, and with that, she gives them orders and tells them to meet in the Watchtower in 1 hour. After they leave, Connor turns to Waller, reminding her that Talon should have never been brought onto the team. You want to blow me to bits, then get it over with, because I'm not in the mood for another lecture, he tells her. Waller walks with him and she reminds him that she made him Superman because she believes in him. You became the Superman that the world needed, she tells him, leading him into another room, telling him that he leads the team that she picks, and if he doesn't like it, there's always Task Force Z, she says, motioning to the stasis tubes that hold the crime syndicate members. Connor is shocked, believing that they had put the crime syndicate out of commission. You did. But they can still be good soldiers with the help of that ring, she says, nodding at the Black Lantern ring that floats nearby. And with that, she leaves the room. A short time later, the Justice Squad is seen flying over the Pentagon. And in the nearby woods, they are watched. You know Waller isn't really down there, right? Black Manta notes as he continues to cough. Peacemaker nods and Manta doubles over in pain, demanding that Peacemaker send him back. No way, Mana, he says, and Manta rears up, grabbing him by the throat. I'm gonna kill you for this, and then I'm going to kill your boss, he shouts, but he becomes weak, falling to the ground, blood leaking out of his body. We all knew the risks leaving our Earth. Our clocks are ticking, but if we want to save our world, we had to come to Earth 3. We have to find and bring back Waller, he tells them. It's the perfect job for the Suicide Squad. And there you have it, a bunch more books as a part of our Future State event. Now, when this is all over, we're probably going to be breaking up all of these into full stories directly focused on the characters you're looking for. Future State Red Hood, Future State Bruce Wayne, that kind of a thing. But like I said, let's talk about the timeline a little bit. Now, this is a very loose timeline as everything is a what-if storyline. It's all kind of like story over continuity right now, but all the Gotham stuff seems to be kind of in the same timeline. So Batman and Superman apparently started in 2023 and is the beginning of all of this. Okay, it's before Bruce Wayne dies, before everyone goes off to do their own thing. 2025 is where Red Hood, Nightwing, Batgirl, all of those books are happening, and the next Batman. 2027 is where Dark Detective is happening and where the return of Bruce Wayne eventually comes out. It all seems a bit weird to me, but I'm hoping at the end of this timeline will make sense. As for Aquaman, supposedly by the timeline, if I'm remembering correctly, it happens at 2030 because Justice League is at 2040, so Andy will have aged enough to be Aquawoman for that storyline. And Suicide Squad, I don't know where that one fits in. It's just kind of apparently a side story all by itself about the Suicide Squad fighting against the evil version of the Justice League. I hope you guys are enjoying these Future State books. I hope you guys are enjoying the format we chose to go with these, where we just bring them all to you or broke it into 2 videos, but you're getting a bunch of them in a single video, so it's easier for you to follow along. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much for your continued support. Don't forget, we'll be back next Friday with more Future State, and next Saturday will be more King in Black, and that's it. I'll see you guys in a bit.